All right. Should be good to go. And I'm going to bounce out.
Okay. Wait, you don't wait. What? Oh, picture wise. I would also say that anybody who also would like to, who also intends to participate in this conversation, could be like on Zoom at the same time, and you know what I mean, cycling
Yeah,
just
yeah. I'm gonna text.
piggyback
I'm
off.
gonna text a few. I'm gonna text a few brothers now.
Okay, great.
All right.
Make sure I'm YouTube
Make sure everything looking all right.
appropriate. Make sure YouTube appropriate.
Is it blurred? Okay, it's blurred, right? Good, good.
Yeah, yeah.
I got baby toys, all kind of stuff behind me.
Life. That just means you have to step forward. I would also encourage you to maybe like, because this is going to be a conversation style. So however you feel, yeah, most comfortable, maybe have a seat so you can be just like two friends having coffee or chai, because that's what I'm having.
Sure. Or however it is. All right, let me yeah, this I'm not generally is this work? This feels this
I think it's great. I mean, if you want to scoot maybe closer to wherever your camera is, that could work too. But yeah, I'm using my iPad and my desk, so that's that.
Just as long as we ain't looking at John's crotch, I'm gonna be cool.
I know that's what I'm trying to
Oh, I mean, I didn't even think about that. But go ahead and adjust.
now I don't know, it's weird. Whatever.
We good. We good.
Okay.
We good.
It's fine. I think we're good. Okay, so let me highlight John. Spotlight for everyone. All right, great. Okay, this is cool. Hey, John, thank you so much for joining me today just to have this quick conversation with you about Broga and the impacts of mindfulness and yoga over the course of the last, I don't know, what do you want to say, 3 years that you've been practicing? So 4 years. Oh, yeah, it's 2024. Okay, I got to come into the present moment. So you've been involved in this community since the beginning, and I want to talk to you about what prompted you to join Broganda.
Yeah, so that's a good question. We were so I turned 50 last. So as I got older, I played football and basketball and all those things, and I was into cycling a lot. And as you get older, you have to find ways to diversify how you stay in shape. And so I had actually started. There's a group here in Atlanta, a guys yoga practice, and I'd started going to that. And I was like probably 20 years the youngest person there, and usually the only black guy there. And then the pandemic hit, and so I couldn't go to that anymore. And I was like, man, I really had gotten into enjoying yoga and enjoying having a practice. And then, Willis and I were talking about this, and he said, well, let's try it, man. Let's try something. Let's, try to do something online and see if it takes. And I don't think any of us really thought that it would become what it had become. And then he asked me if I would, kind of kick things off with a short reflection at the beginning of some of the sessions. And I say, sure, man, I'll do it. But he'll tell you, I called him, probably after every one of them. I was like, man, if folk really aren't feeling this, just being, just let me know, man, because I don't want to be forcing this on people if they're not really digging reflections. But people have really seemed to get something out of them, and I think it ties the spiritual wellness and our physical wellness and our mental and emotional wellness and all those things together. So I can tell you that's just a little bit of what I've gotten out of it, as well as just the camaraderie, right? It's one part barbershop, right? They crack on my stuff. I try to crack on other folks as much get away with it as well. So kind of need that.
So I understand, yeah. And it sounds like you were looking for a physical avenue, like you said, to get fit, and it led into maybe, would it be fair to say, well, let me ask you this. I'm looking for a physical outlet. How has it become more for you or to you? How did you find that pathway of connecting the spiritual to the physical? What was that like for you?
That's interesting because I don't think that any of us ought to be a part of it. So I think it just sort of happened naturally. And I think that's sort of the way that some of this stuff has to work and has to happen. It just has to be natural, right? So I think as Black men in America, going through the pandemic, especially going through some of the political times, going through some of the things that, for whatever reason, the world in 2020 seemed to take notice of, sort of some of the challenges with interactions with police officers. And one of the things that I have tried to pay more attention to is how things impact my psyche, spiritual well-being, even if I don't know that they are affecting my well-being. And so, you know, some of that stuff that's going on, I still, and then, I had major surgery. Yeah, a
Mhm.
pancreatic tumor removed in 2022. I lost my
Wow.
dad in 2020
Yes.
during the pandemic. So, all
Yeah.
these things that I was experiencing and I was going through, I launched an entrepreneurial consulting in real estate development firm, all these things. And so I was going through these things. I was, doing reflection to share with the group. I was just sharing whatever was on my mind and whatever I was working through or working on that week. And other brothers picked that up, and other folks in the group picked that up. And then there was an exchange of energy. I think the spiritual component of it just sort of evolved, in a way that was very organic and in many ways not planned. And
Yeah.
frankly, I think that if we had tried to plan it to become, this sort of spiritual wellness place, I'm not sure it would have come off the same way. I think it had to organically the way that.
Exactly. Mm, that's beautiful. So, with that in mind, obviously this is something that you found value in, camaraderie, and like you mentioned, in wanting to extend the invitation to those that would be receptive to it. Who would you say this group is best for? If someone was, who would you describe kind of like someone that fits in and gels in organically with what it is that we're doing here? What does that person look like? What are they living through? How do they see the world?
Yeah, so Howard Thurman, theologian who really, inspired Dr. King in a lot of ways, wrote this book once called "Deep Is the Hunger," and
Mm.
I think there are a lot of folks who look like me and sort of my age bracket and sort of, going through similar phases of life. We've got a 10-year-old little girl and trying to
Mhm.
figure out, and I lost my dad and my mom's getting older, and so trying to figure out working and trying to stay healthy and aging is a process in and of itself. And, trying to be a good parent and a good husband and, trying to be a good son and figure all those things out. And so I think there are a lot of people who are going through a lot of things like that. And especially as men and maybe especially as Black men, we are just told, kind of, muscle up, right?
Mhm.
Like just
Mhm.
you know, put it all on your back, and we, you know, that's killing us, right? Like that's not healthy. We need to be able to have places where we can, have a community, right? Have community where we can say, I'm going through something. We started something that I had seen when I was in seminary. I saw some folks do something in sort of worship development. And what they did is when they started the particular worship service, they had everybody who wanted to come up front and light a candle for anything that they, kind of want to keep in mind or keep in tension or keep in prayer. We started doing that, and man, it was something that I look forward to every week. Maybe we should bring that back, but like just saying, look, here's what I'm working on. Working through my dad, when he was beginning to travel, right? And and asking the brothers and everybody within the community to just sort of hold that in intention. And then we did intention, as part of the reflection. I got a lot out of it. And, I know that other folks, because of what folks shared with me, got a lot out of it too. So I think there are people who, you ask who would this be attractive to, who would this be maybe good for? I think there are a lot of people who need that and may not even realize that they need it.
Yeah, I would agree. And thinking about some of the barriers that you mentioned as being a Black man and being expected to just muscle so much, how would you encourage someone to maybe step out of that mindset? I know how I would do it. Um, Basically, just saying beyond it being unhealthy, you deserve a community that supports you. You deserve a space to be open and honest about the good, bad, and ugly of your life. Like that is a natural deserving as a human being. But I know that that may not resonate with everybody. So, how would you kind of encourage someone to at the very least try it out, knowing what it means to be a Black man with those expectations? How do we do this? How do we get more people? Because everybody knows that loneliness is the number one, concern on a national level. We know that. We know that health is up there with that as well.
Not everybody does.
Okay.
That's you're spot on, but believe it or not everybody knows that. And I think there is a lot, especially as people get older, especially as men age, that loneliness is literally killing us, right?
Yeah.
What I would say, because men and Black men always where it is okay and where it is safe to admit your vulnerability and to even focus on them, right? Like we really, it's almost comic as men. We do so much not to address the elephant, right? Like, we can be in so much pain and we are just going to go all around, the world trying to avoid just saying, hey man, I'm hurting right now, and I think what I would say to encourage, so I'm very, very open on the group, that I have a therapist that I go to. I've got a standing monthly appointment. His brother named Bernard, he's like uncle to me at this point. We've been together years, right? And then he also has a twice a month Black men's support group. And I am very, very intentional about talking about that because we need that, and we need to know that it's okay to have somebody. How else could you even expect to get through all of the challenges that are being thrown at you day in, day out as a Black man, and not have a community of folk that you can bring this to? Let me run this by y'all, right? Or my mom told me, we all need a friend, and sometimes we have to pay somebody to be our friend, right? And so, you might have a paid friend that you can go and talk to and share things with. I just, and I try to be very open about that, not pushy. I don't try to push it on it. I put his information in chat. I let people know, listen, call him, call somebody, get whatever. To your point, you deserve to have that. And then what I would say is just watch other people, right? And you watch other people be vulnerable, right? And there are probably times where I will tell you, I've put stuff in the chat and I was like, put it out there, and I hope it doesn't come off as too heavy. I mean, but I think it's healthy and helpful for me be like, listen, I'm I'm not good right now. I'm working. And I think I would hope that me and others being willing to say, hey, I'm not good right now. I need some help, or I'm working through something, or whatever, is encouraging other folks to be able to within that safe space, right? Like it's not a
it has to be a safe space.
Folks would like, because they're, not really embrace their own vulnerabilities, that would make them so uncomfortable they would respond to you in a negative way. We have an environment where we don't, right? If somebody puts their vulnerabilities out there, we're not coming at them or ridiculing them or anything. Now we might clown you about some other stuff, but we're not gonna do you that, right? So I think as you watch other men that you respect and that are in say, hey, listen, I'm going through something. I think I would hope that then helps other folks to be, courageous to say, hey, you know what? I need y'all to light a candle because I'm going through something with my wife, with my relationship, with my job, with my kids, whatever. I need y'all to hold something in intention for me.
I love that. And there are so many studies that show that when you open yourself up in a safe space, it does a lot of the healing work on the inside, because a lot of our resistance to vulnerability is because how it was met in our childhood, especially of a certain generation. So if you cried or expressed, emotion, and you were responded to with negativity, suppression, and things like that, you've learned that it's not safe. So this is beyond just camaraderie. It truly is a space to reclaim all that has been lost by just sheer culture. This is the way that things were. Nobody has to be to blame, but now we have spaces that can reclaim that energy, reclaim the wholeness of what it just means to be a human being, not a man, not a woman, but everyone deserves to live out the fullest expression of their experience, which is, great emotions and not so great emotions, heavy emotions, not so heavy emotions, like that. And that's a birthright for everyone. So I'm so happy to hear about the container or the safe space that's been created for here. And I'm so happy to spread the word.
I'll say one on this that I've heard multiple times as folks have, either, broadly shared or, shared with me privately. There are Black men in our group, and I believe more broadly, who have not found the company of other Black men to be a safe and welcoming space for, whether it's, just kind of how they show up in the world, whether it's, gender identification, sexuality, but just sort of, how they show up, like you said, a full human, right? Like if you, oftentimes, I think among Black men, we find environments where we have to have such toxic masculinity. We have to perform machismo. And at some point in life, you just, I'm not doing that. I don't want to be.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm not doing that. And so I think it has been welcoming to a lot of folks to see that, again, we will act a fool and clown each other, have a little barbershop like activity, but then we really do. We just in there for each other. And I will say, for me, especially within ministry, I did not realize how important it was to be there for people and to sort of lean in when they need you to hold something in intention for them. I didn't realize how important that was until I needed it. And when I needed it, and folks held that in intention for me, it really changed things. I mean, in the way that I live my life, in the way that I sort of show up in the world, it really changed.
Mm.
And
That
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and Broganda was a huge part of it.
I was going to say that was going to be my last and final point. How has this community impacted your life off of the mat, yoga off the mat, how you engage with others? Can you give me an example or just how you see the world differently? I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. I think, on and off the mat, it has really helped me to deepen my humanity, right? So to really understand that what being a champion looks like, what being, what really being a hero, right? Not all heroes wear capes, what it really means to really show up and be excellent as a human being, not as an athlete, not a tough guy, not as, somebody that's got a lot of muscles. And yeah, all those things are great. Don't get me wrong. But to really show up deeply as a human and to be there for other people who need you to show up for them deeply as a human, but then also to allow yourself to say, hey, I need other people to show up for me deeply as a human.
Mm. I love that. Now, here's the thing. So, I do this work, I teach, I meditate. You all get to see me at work, but in my personal life, it's all blended together. For me, I have to prepare to be a person in integrity at work. It's not just showing up, right? And for me, that background piece is hard as hell. It's hard as hell. It's hard. It is not easy. So my thought is generally like when I work with gentlemen, when I work with guys, and there's almost like a language as if this work is not hard or it's not challenging, or like lifting weights is like so much more masculine or more challenging than sitting with yourself. That blows my mind because I'm like, well, maybe I need to lift the weight and just see and compare. But how would you speak to that? Is the internal, emotional, meditative yoga, is it not equally challenging? Or maybe, I'm never going to be a man. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be a Black man. Maybe I'm just grossly underestimating how heavy weights are and things like that. But like,
Is
help
it
me.
is it is it is this beautiful opportunity we have to redefine what being a man means, right? Because in some ways, and I try to have grace for people who show up in the world in many the ways that like my dad showed up in the world. My dad, I saw my dad cry one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
My father died, and my dad went and sat in the car and drove the car to the backyard and sat in the car by himself and cried.
Wow. Wow.
And he did not have a space in his life where even when his grandfather, who I'm John the Fourth, my dad was John the Third, so when John Senior died, my dad did not openly cry, and that is into deal with that. You can't lift enough weights to be that heavy, to say I'm going to be, and I don't have a son, I have a daughter, which is really interesting, right? I'm going to find a space and build that muscle within myself where my daughter and my nephews know that I don't consider myself any less of a man for when I cry. I don't consider them in a way when and if they cry. In fact,
Yeah.
that is healing in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be just, completely true. It's actually a whole lot easier to just go build muscle and be macho and all that stuff, and not deal with not deal with that much heavier stuff.
Thank you for admitting that. That's all if God forbid I leave this earth, I can leave peacefully because at least one person said it. The emotional is equally as challenging to face as anything else. And I think that agreed, it doesn't make you any less of a man. If anything, to me, it feels like to be able to toggle and balance both is the epitome of elevated humanity, just really diving into both aspects of your humanity. So, yeah, thank you for validating me as a human being and as a wellness worker. I appreciate that. And yeah, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with as we wrap up this conversation and experience about Broganda?
No, I thank you for for sticking in there with us, helping us kind of grow, and I'm just really excited. We'll see. We're hey, we're 4 years. We'll see where it goes. In the future.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Hi, beautiful girl. All righty.
All right. Take care. All right.
Thank you. Talk soon. All right. Who do we got next? We got Jeff. Let me highlight Jeff. Jeff, you ready?
Oh, I'm ready if you are. It's good to see you, Tracy.
All right. Likewise. All right, always repping the frat. I love it. I don't got my pink and green on today. Well, wait a minute. Is that pink back there? Okay, a little pink and green. Oh, now it's red. Never mind. We're gonna. So again, we're just here to talk about Broganda, the impact that it's had on your life, your well-being, your ideas of community, wellness, and all the things. So nothing too formal. We're gonna keep it super casual, super whatever you want to share.
I just got off a 6-hour flight from New York to San Francisco. Which is why I wasn't at the beginning of this conversation. But I think it says something about how I think about Broganda, that as soon as I sat down in the rental car, I wanted to get on and say hello to folks who I knew were well into their yoga practice. Even though I couldn't join them, it was important for me to say hello, to acknowledge that moment, to be even a little part of that moment. Because I think that's really, really important. Because for me, the key is community. I heard a part of your conversation with my dear friend John, and you were asking him about why so many men in your life seem to think that lifting weights or other sorts of physical muscular development is harder or as hard as the interior development. And I think he did, I agree with everything that he said. And you can do that stuff alone. You can go by yourself in your house, or you can even go and put your headphones on and be by yourself in a gym doing that stuff alone. The landmarks are obvious. You can lift heavier weight today than you could last month, or you like better what your physique looks like in the mirror than it did last month. And so you can do that alone. And you can do that within the confines of the limitations that we have traditionally put on what it means to be a man. But this work, the work that you help us with, the work that Willis leads in terms of the yoga, is necessarily about community, is necessarily about sort of negotiating the milestones when you don't know. Right? Am I getting better? What does that mean? Am I the only one who can tell? I think there is something naturally comparative about male relationships. We compete a lot more and a lot more often than my experience of female relationships suggests to me that women do. And that makes it difficult to have deep relationships, because how do you maintain a relationship with someone if you don't feel like your career is progressing as fast as his? Or, the kinds of things that we compete on and that we naturally compete on. How do you set that aside? How do you get to that place of safety? And that's a part of why the minute I heard about Broga and Broganda, I wanted to be a part.
I love that. And so do you feel like, because that is one of the thoughts that is constantly at the forefront of my mind. It's really bringing together two worlds that could be so complementary, but I struggle as a woman to navigate that natural competitive leaning in males and men, and the singularly identifying I am enough exactly where as I am foundational principle of yoga. How can you speak to Broganda being able to have done that seamlessly? Can you speak to that?
I can, because I really think it is about what others in this space have said. It's about a safe space, and it's about a place to be as much yourself as you ever get to be. So one of I'll talk about it this way. One of the pieces of poetry that has meant a lot to me in my life is Paul Laurence Dunbar's "We Wear the Mask."
Okay.
We wear the mask that grins and lies. I think Black men of a certain age, all of us are 40s, 50s, thereabout. Black men of a certain age and of a certain socioeconomic class, most of us are highly credentialed professionals. We spend a lot of time grinning and lying. We spend a lot of time being who the world expects us to be. And Broga is a place where I can grin without lying. Right? Where I can just be who I am and all of who I am. So I can be ratchet and competitive and, embrace what, John sometimes calls the barbershop ethos of what we do together. I can be that person, and in the next second, I can be, somebody who cares deeply about the education system in the United States and knows more than most do about it, and bring that to the conversation too. And I can do that without skipping a beat. I can do that without putting on a new mask, right? I can do that without having to prepare for it. I just am. And that is a space that I at least don't have many spaces like that in my life.
Wow.
And I think that is the beautiful thing. And part of it is the mindfulness, the yoga practice. My spiritual life is a much more overtly and traditionally Christian spiritual life than probably some of the other brothers. But what I like about the practices from these South Asian based practices is that, mindfulness, the journey inside, the meditations that you lead for us, that just as activity, as a tool, is a really powerful one. Just you frequently say, notice what comes up, don't do anything about it. You frequently say, feel your connection to the earth. And, just the finding that peaceful place, finding that focus within a life that has been built on grinning and lying is itself therapeutic. And it can fit into who I am spiritually and who I am culturally.
Mm, that's beautiful. I definitely, we are accomplishing exactly what we set out to accomplish. And I love that.
Good.
I would also just say that from everything that you just mentioned, the most beautiful part that I can recognize is that every single person bringing their whole self to the equation, to the experience, makes the experience that much more enjoyable for everyone. And I think it's such a symbiotic relationship in the sense that you benefit, feel freedom from being yourself, and the group advances and expands because
So
you felt that freedom for being yourself. And I think that everyone deserves a space where they can experience that. Absolutely,
I think that's
1,000%.
right too. I do.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And I think that the commonalities that we have are a part of that too. We are not carbon copies of each other, we who care about Broganda. But there are some common things about our lives that mean that we don't have to explain who we are to each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I get it. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we just understand, right? I understand what it means when John's daughter comes and sits on his lap as he is doing that, right? I understand what it means that he has created a situation where she knows that there is nobody and nothing more important than she is to her daddy, right?
Right.
There's
I
there,
know that's right.
there was no world in which he was going to say, baby, I'm doing something. Wait, no, he said, "Here, come sit on my lap," right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
in the context about what I know about how he was loved as a child,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't happen by mistake, right? And
Yeah.
we don't ever have to talk about it for me to know that, right? For me to see
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
You also mentioned that I do frequently represent the greatest fraternity in the world. This too is a new part of my life.
Yeah.
I am second generation member of this fraternity.
I know
I've
that's right.
been a member of this fraternity for just 2 years. And I bring that up, Tracy, because my experience of joining this fraternity and my experience being embraced by this Broganda community are the only places in my life where I have made new Black male friends in recent years.
Wow.
During the pandemic, I knew one and only one member of Broganda.
Wow.
And today, there are a bunch of them who, if they said to me, "I'm going through something and I need your physical presence to help me through it," I would be on the way to the airport canceling my meetings for tomorrow.
Wow. Wow.
To try to be there. And there just are not spaces like that for Black men, or not this Black man anyway. There just are not spaces like that exist, where that kind of connection can be created, with somebody you haven't known for 30 years. And I think a part of why Broganda is wonderful is a lot of them have known each other for 30 years, right? The beating heart of this community is probably the Morehouse College class of 1995. A bunch of folks who got to know each other, in another century and have known each other well for a long time. But there are also a lot of us who were not at Morehouse in 1995. And have been embraced by that community too. And I think that is why it is so special to me.
Wow. That is beautiful to hear. I think you said it all, but I would love to touch on how this community has impacted your worldview, your life off of the mat, your life outside of community, how you view friendship. To me, it would sound like, I would assume, and you can let me know, how has this impacted your standard of friendship? Because I might imagine that when you have guys who just will drop everything for you, maybe a more shallow or, less invested friendship might not seem as worthy of your time, especially as gentlemen who, like you said, are well credentialed and have big lives. How has it impacted your life off of the map?
I think, it has certainly expanded my life away from the mat, away from the meditation, even away from the community. I'll tell a quick story. I asked this group of people at one point for a recommendation of someone who could teach me something that I needed to know about a particular part of the economy. And several people recommended two different Black men that they knew well, who actually also are part of Broganda. And I reached out to them individually and set up a conversation with them. And they said, we know you're talking to the others, so why don't we just have a conversation, the three of us, about this?
Wow.
And in the course of this conversation, it became clear to me that these two brothers are married to each other.
Okay.
And it struck me that the beauty of this community is such that nobody felt the need to tell me that.
Okay.
Right? It simply did not matter.
Yeah.
It is not something that made a difference.
Yeah.
And whereas in other parts of my world, especially other Black parts of my world, especially other Black male parts of my world, that would have been the first piece of information that somebody gave.
Okay.
But here, it didn't matter. And it should never matter in the way that it does. It just does matter everywhere else, right? And so this is an opportunity to explore, again, like I said before, all of who I am and all of who we are. That I don't have to, in order to be accepted in this space, pretend that I am less accepting of brothers who love other brothers than I actually am. Whereas there are other masculine spaces where that is the ethos that would have to be.
Wow.
That is what's there.
Yeah.
And this is not one of those spaces, right? This is not one of those spaces where I have to pretend that my most natural means of communication is, pretty well delivered standard American English.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Jeff. Is just like the being able to satisfy the pent up demand for connection without all the pretense. Because when you think about the caliber of individuals that we're talking about, at the nucleus and then in the concentric circles of this community, you being part of, being one hop away from the nucleus, and now really part of the nucleus yourself, being able to ask questions and challenge your own assumptions and the assumptions of other folks without wading through the letters at the end of your name and qualifying yourself. I mean, you're pre-qualified by the time you get here.
That's exactly right.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. So, Jeff, do you have any final thoughts on? So, the demographic, what we're shooting this for is to get people aware, to put it on people's radar. What would you say to someone, and let me spotlight you again before we move on. Morgan, you are up next. How do I spotlight? Oh, no, just go back. What would you say to someone that may be seeking a safe space, a space such as one that we've created? What would you want to say to that person particularly?
So to that person, I say, for me and for several of us, Broga is a safe space in all the ways I could imagine defining safety.
Wow.
A place where I can be vulnerable, a place where, as you and I talked about before, I don't have to wear a mask that grins and lies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be more embracing of toxic masculinity than I want to be.
Mm.
I don't have to be less country South Carolina Negro than I am. I don't have to be less educated than I am. I don't have to be less passionate about my people and where we're going than I am. I can
Wow.
be all of that.
Mm.
And that is a unique and special thing in my life. And so
Wow.
maybe there are people who will hear this for whom my particular zone of safety is not what they're looking for, but I hope we will inspire them to go and create their own zone of space safety like this, right?
Wow.
That they will see from us and hear in our words and see in our passion that, at least for me, my life is better because I have these guys in my life.
Wow.
Right? Everything about my life is better because I have
Wow.
these guys in my life. That both that I know they will agree with me on some things, and I know they won't agree with me on some things. I know that they will call me on my bullshit, and they will listen when I call them on their bullshit. And the relationships are not broken by that, right?
Wow.
It's not just we pat each other on the backs constantly. Mm-hmm. And that is what it's based upon. We really are in community and in relationship for real.
Wow.
And that is not something that I, at least, as a man, as a Black man, was taught to value as much as I do now. And I sincerely hope that through our example, some people will come and join us and be a part of Broganda, but then even more will value what we have and be jealous of what we have and go and create their own. Because I think, you know, we can get through life, which is difficult for everybody, better if we have spaces like this, if we have people like this. And so I definitely want Broganda to grow. I want more people to join this community, but I want us to inspire other people to find their own communities.
I love that. I love that so much. Just in the spirit of collaboration, even if it is not directly tied to this organization. So thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution. And we are going to transition to the next conversation with Morgan. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you.
You should listen carefully to Morgan. It is important that the elders get their voice too. People who are so much older than the rest of us, that we learn a lot from them. And I think Morgan has a lot to say. He's not ready for pastor yet. He's still in the fight, helping us out, and I really appreciate that.
I love it. I love it. I will pay close attention. I feel like this is going to be really good. All right, Morgan, how are you?
Doing well, sister. Good to see you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me about your experience with Broganda. What does this organization, this community mean to you? How has it impacted your life? How would you like to see the community expand? And what would you, and pick, we can, whatever drops in on your spirit, go ahead and dive in there. But also, what do you hope that this inspires in people and community? What do you hope to see? How do you hope that this community makes an impact in yourself personally, and the brothers involved, and the community at large? Let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, how I came to Broganda was, you know, at the outset of the pandemic, as folks were I think realizing that we weren't really going to see much of one another in person. Just again, that clamoring for connection that I think we all, we've all expressed in these discussions today. We weren't going to church, where there was no church to go to. And, we had an opportunity having an ordained minister in John Majors and uh, Yogi in Willis to kind of kill multiple birds with one stone. Um, you know, for me, Broganda has been just a weekly reset button more than anything else. I don't, always find my way to the mat every week, but when I do, it always makes me wish that I had missed fewer sessions. Um, there are elements of uh, church and as Jeff said, the barber shop, but um, it is in my experience, um, it's been a way to exponentially expand both the depth, breadth, and value and impact of a network that I thought I already had. Honestly, I was not expecting it. 50 years old to be still making really, really good friends for life. I thought I had everything that I needed. And so one thing that I've learned about myself is that I do have capacity for more and deeper relationships. Um, and so Broganda has become something that we all look forward to. You're aware that there is, in parallel to the yoga itself, there's an ongoing conversation that we carry on Signal. That is, I mean, even I'm watching messages come in even as we're talking right now. I mean, we're some chatty brothers, and the conversations run the gamut from religion to sex to money to um, media and movies and just utter foolishness. Also, if I'm being honest, so
Mhm.
it has been a way to really just to stay connected to brothers who I've been connected with for more than 30 years, but also to create new connection with folks I didn't even know existed.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful. And so how has, just like I asked everybody else, how has these connections and your practice on the mat, how has it impacted your life outside of these connections, your friendships outside of the Broganda community?
Well, it definitely helps me keep things in perspective. Most of the folks, if not all of us, on in Broganda have a lot going on off the mat. Many of us have families, if not full on families and significant others, and for sure very demanding careers. Um, so the impact for me has been, well, really just um, the perspective, free therapy, for sure. I mean, we've talked a lot about the therapeutic and cathartic elements of being in constant communication with folks who are, you realize it's not just you, and that's important. Um, but you know, also just kind of it's been a force multiplier for a lot of us. You've heard some of the other interviewees today talk about how the real impact of these new connections has, not to make it a transactional thing, but has netted results not just spiritually and in terms of our physical health, but also our financial position. Some of us are doing business with one another. Some of us are helping upskill and reskill others. So I could go on, but those are some of the impacts. You also asked the question about um, some around how we hope uh, this will continue to expand. I talk a lot about wanting this to live long enough to see our sons and daughters be able to engage and to benefit from the connections that we've developed here, and they already are to a large extent. But I mean,
Mhm.
in a sustained, lifelong way.
Mm. I love that. So making it a legacy impact to families, to children, to normalize well-being and community. It's super important. Now,
Yeah.
to switch and pivot from that perspective, bring it into kind of like the micro, how has the physical practice impacted your relationship with your body, your mind, your energy, your movement? What has that been like? Because I can say, when I teach gentlemen or people who are maybe practicing for the first time or new to the mat, the physical is such an interesting dynamic because some of the moves are not necessarily moves that you do in your day-to-day life or in your maybe dominant physical routine, workout routine. So what has that relationship been like for you?
Yeah, it has been important for me as we are all men generally of a certain vintage, recognizing that we're not 19 anymore, and flexibility, mobility, and maybe as a third strength become more important. Um, and so I know for me individually, my flexibility and my mobility have definitely drastically increased. I mean, my heels are still not touching the ground in down dog. I'm probably another 2 or 3 years off from
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah, but that what you just said, but it's okay, and knowing that it's okay, and that it's not about it's not a competition, right? Um, is the point. If you're competing with anyone, it's the you of last week or the you of yesterday to see, you know, what the real progress has been, and then I think also how you incorporate what we're practicing on the mat in your everyday. I think about just the connection with the breath, right? We talk a lot about breathing, and you realize one of the first things you realize when you start practicing yoga is how infrequently you're doing any belly breathing, and how shallow your breathing is on a moment to moment basis. And connecting that to the careers that we all manage and the families that we participate in, and walking around short of breath all the time. It's no wonder we're all stressed out. And so it is teaching myself and reminding myself to, just as trite as it sounds, to just breathe through it.
Mm. I love that. What would you say might keep someone who could benefit from this group away? And what would you say to maybe encourage them to try it anyway? What are some of the reasons maybe that someone who would greatly benefit from this is
Yeah.
like, nah, I don't think so. And then what would you say to that person to maybe bring them to the other side? We don't do any convincing, but just to reinforce the positives that are present here.
Yeah, I mean, most people are going to tell themselves, and we all still struggle with this. They're going to tell themselves, "I don't have enough time. I've never done yoga before. This is not for brothers. That sounds like what white boys do or what white folks do, or they've just not been exposed. It's something new." And I think uh, what I would say to that is, um, you know, one, give it a chance, but two, you really can't afford not to do this for yourself. It's an investment that you can make in yourself. Um, if you want to feel better measurably, maybe not on the first go, but over time, if you want to feel better, take this for yourself. It's a way to do something for yourself and to care for yourself. We talk a lot about self-care. Self-care isn't always just sitting in the seat with your feet in a tub getting a pedicure. I mean, you should do that too. And I'm speaking specifically to Black men. But if you continue to be able to physically be there for yourself and for the people that care about you, these are things that you have to get up and move. You've got to breathe. You've got to maintain strength, flexibility, and mobility. A lot of us at this age are, like, if you think about it, when's the last time any one of us broke out into full on sprint? Well, you don't want to find out that you can't do it when you have to do it. So better to maintain. So it's the main. It's the work, but also, um, that's the physical piece. but the connection, I think a lot of us have just, um, we're so busy doing, and you just you're on the treadmill all the time, and you get to the point where I think we start telling ourselves we don't need any more than, or we don't deserve any more than what we've got right now. Where I have all the friends and the connection, I don't have space for more people. Um,
Mm.
it's a fallacy. We have space. There is a need. Sometimes you just need to sit still for a little bit and hear yourself think. Sometimes, during, a lot of the program sessions don't really say much, and I don't think that there's um, a requirement to be very vocal. The signal thread is there if you want it, but a lot of us are busy, and a lot of us drop in when we want. And I think that's the great thing is you can drop in when you want. There's no guilt about showing up 1 out of 10 times. You show up when you can. But when you show up, it's just like walking in the barbershop. It's like, hey man, we haven't seen you in a bit, but it's good. It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen.
I love that. I love that. And I definitely would agree that that's so important for people to show up and be welcomed, whether they've been gone for a week, 2 weeks, or 2 months, or whatever. That's very impactful on the emotional landscape of a human being. And I would also, you said something that really struck a nerve with me. It's almost like you can't afford not to show up, especially for people with families. I lost my dad when he was 54. I was in my 20s, and that's a long stretch of time I'm going to have to go for the rest of his life without a dad. And it's almost like, we talk about the obligations of manhood, the obligations and the responsibilities of fatherhood, of being a husband, and things like that. It's almost like your emotional landscape is part of that responsibility. I hate to put yoga in the framework of work and things like that, but it's like this is one of the ways that you maintain your vitality, your life for the people who depend on you. So I'm always in such support and excitement for the guys who show up, because I know from this side of the conversation how it impacts everyone that you come into contact with. So is there anything that you want to add, or anything like, any questions that you want to answer, any tidbits that you want to leave? Just your insight, your perspective. What do you have on the benefits of growth?
Yeah. Um, I would just reiterate that this is that, whether it's propaganda, but especially if it's propaganda, as a community, this is a gift that you can give yourself. Black men are stressed. Uh, and many of us don't even know the signs of the low grade, burnout that we're constantly experiencing until you open your mouth and start talking to other folks. And you're just like, oh, you're like me. I feel like that too. I didn't realize that that's what I was experiencing. How are you dealing with that? Well, this is one way that we are beginning to address the the things that are put in black men in early grades. 54 is way too small. I mean, I have to believe that because I'm only 4 years away from that. I am not ready at all.
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything that I can. I've got 3 sons, which, brings me to another point. I have 3 black men that I'm responsible for rearing who didn't ask to be here. I need to show them what good looks like, and at least give them an option, an alternative to do nothing or do what everybody else is doing. Be like these other guys who don't know how to use their words, even about themselves, to talk about what they're feeling. I have a place where I can talk about what I'm feeling. Like, really, we talk about feelings a lot, and how we got to those feelings, and therapy. The time to sit with a therapist may not be available to everyone, but it's something that every black man needs. And so I would say for me, um, the thing that I take away from being part of this community that is most important to me is the constant access to the therapeutic elements. And it is um, as holistic an experience as it has been available to me in my life, right? I mean, and I'm counting church. I think that what I've gotten over the last three some odd years is, covers the spiritual, the physical, the mental. Um, it has been it's the complete package for me. But you have to show up and you have to open your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. You have to do the work. You have to put the work in. Very, very much so. I love that perspective. And with that, I think this wraps up all of our interviews. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for your commentary and for your insight. And let's go back to spotlighting with Elijah's phone. Is Elijah gonna hop on and chat with us?
No.
I don't know. I'm gonna hop in on the spotlight. Willis, who's this? And then go from there. Hold on. How do I make him back the host? Do you want to change? Yes. Does that work? Who's here? Who's this? Hey, Willis, we're about done. Maybe I'll spotlight myself. I don't have to do that now. Yes, I can't. Hey, Willis, we're about done. So I have a feeling you may have. Hey, Elijah, I don't know if I can unmute you because I made your dad the host. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you can.
Hi. Hello. How is
Hey,
everyone?
how are you?
Doing well. Dad just wanted me to jump on the call and speak to, I guess, my perception of Broganda
Hold on, wait,
as a
wait,
non-Broganda.
wait 1 second, because I made your dad the host, so I can't spotlight you just yet. Is he by his phone or by his computer?
Not sure.
Hold on, because I want to make sure that my son call as well. Um, One second. What is happening here? Okay, this is why I don't check my phone at work if I get distracted. So I'm gonna wait for your dad to hop back on so we can spotlight you so that the screen can be appropriate for what you're gonna say. Hopefully by his phone. I'm gonna grab my earpods. How that sound? Worst case scenario, I think we may be doing some more next Sunday. There may be a few more people that have things that they'd like to speak to. So if worst case scenario, because I don't know if your dad's on a message. Oh no, he's up. Okay. It's 1:30. Hey,
Hello?
can you? Hey, I made you the host before I saw your message about Elijah hopping on. Can you
Oh,
either make, yeah, can you either make
yeah.
me the host again or
Yep.
spotlight him?
I just made you the host.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Man, you are still going? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to give people some time to speak their piece and, you know.
Do your thing. I see here. Maybe maybe grab him. I don't know how much time he has, but yeah.
He's here. Let me, you can go
Cool.
ahead. Okay, Elijah, go ahead. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And I am
Hello.
going to... Hey, how are you?
Doing well. About to meet up with a friend to do some exercise, Broganda Jr. Um, but I was just asked to come speak on my perceptions of Broganda, my perceptions of Black men having these spaces to share and, be vulnerable, but also to grow together, especially as a student at Morehouse, because it is a school for Black men. I guess my perception as the son of a Brogandi is that I've seen how important this group has been to my dad over the past few years. And I've seen that it goes beyond yoga. It's almost as if Broganda is a lifestyle. He has a group, with which he can share his emotions about things that are going on, share news, and just really be vulnerable in that space. And I kind of understand that as a student at Morehouse because I just understand what it is to have that community and to not feel alone um, in a certain light. So I think it's really powerful. I know how much my dad has loved the group in their interactions, both in person and online. And I appreciate that he's able to connect with these men from around the country, some that he's known so long and that some that he's met pretty recently. I just think it's really powerful. Those are my thoughts that come to my head immediately. If you have any questions, I'd love to respond.
Yeah, absolutely. So, being the son of the founder of Broganda, how has his experience here impacted your relationship, your dynamic? I know you mentioned like his relationship with his friends and the community that he's built, but have you noticed any impacts on his, like, maybe not behavior but his perspective off of the map or outside of that community? How has it shifted or changed your relationship, your dynamic?
Yeah, well, for one, I think that the group definitely helped throughout COVID, as a way to, alleviate stress, decompress. And so that was beneficial to the whole family environment. Not like anything crazy was going on before, but just
Of course.
that
Of
I set
course.
the mood. He's definitely become much more introspective. And he's always asking like these emotional questions now. I've been wondering how I'm feeling and things like that. So I'm appreciative of that sort of emotional healing in Black men and things like that. I know that he's learned how important it is to do physical activity as a way toward emotional growth. And so he's always trying to invite me to go run with him, go do yoga with him. And when we do, I see that as like, great bonding moments, father and son. So things like that have definitely improved. It's things that existed before, but he's just grown in
Yeah.
so many.
I was so interested to hear how you would answer that question because he was such an embodied yogi prior to the group. It's almost like going from really good to like exceptional
Yeah,
now. So I
yeah,
feel
it's
like
just like
that's
attention to detail.
yes, yeah, diving deeper, or maybe like you said, honing into the practice that was already being embodied and lived out. Obviously, future forecasting, how do you see this experience maybe impacting the long-term scope of your life compared to maybe some of the people that you see on campus who don't have an experience where their parents are conscious or practicing yogis? Or do you notice a difference in your perspective towards
Okay.
life than maybe some of your friends? Yeah.
Well, I'd say that I think the practice always comes with the intention of mindfulness and just taking that pause and thinking, how do I really feel about certain things that are going on? Just acknowledging change and things like that. And I think it's definitely improved my view. Just the pause alone. Not even, I think that just to take that step back and look at whatever's going on. And I think that friends haven't yet developed that skill. And I definitely know that it's going to come to my advantage later on. So the practice of mindfulness, the practice of meditation, um, and physical activity. We're a pretty active family. We've always been, but I think the connection between mind and body is really emphasized in yoga and in Broganda specifically. Um, especially because it's tailored, towards a Black male audience. And so it's a mindfulness, but it's a mindfulness for us in a way. And so I think I'll keep that in mind. It's also something that reminds me of the importance of community, and that community is a sort of verb, like you have to act on it. It's not just going to create itself. So I've seen the work he's put in, and I hope that guides me in the future to create my own community.
I love that. I love that. Those are all of my questions for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see everyone. Happy Broganda.
Nice to see you. Happy Broganda. Thank you so much. See you next time. See you later. All right, Willis. I'm not sure if you're still here. Since connecting audio. Do I have to unmute you?
Is that everybody?
Yeah, that's everybody.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, good times.
Thank you for taking the time. I didn't expect it, the conversation to go so many different places. I kept popping in as I was heading over to a home I was having a show for a lady who's, looking at this property right outside of downtown Seattle. But every time I logged in, I was like, man, they're taking this very seriously. Like this is, this means something to people. So I'm encouraged. I'm excited. And, I can just having you involved and doing the meditation, and then having brothers really contribute and be vulnerable. I mean, there's been so many things on the chat that, even right now, we've got brothers on the chat that are challenged with some health issues, family health issues, brothers, confiding in each other for, spaces to talk about mental wellness. It just continues to just like evolve. So I'm blown away by some of the things I've heard. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time, and I'll be happy to sit down and do like a live where we kind of get into, my perspective on it and kind of what excites me about, meeting with these brothers every now and then, but then also doing the weekly yoga is just kind of a reset. Honestly, I think I probably get more out than they do, but it's been a gift, and always a gift to get. So.
Yeah, that was my hope as I was, listening to the responses. It was my again, as I say during our meditations, my deepest hope that you recognize, acknowledge, but also accept the impact that something that you have created is having on the lives of so many people. Like, really, I hope you can sit with the ripple effects, right? All of these guys have colleagues, all of these guys have families, all of these guys, you know what I mean? Like this, what you have, brought together, and of course with everybody bringing their energy together, but like that's powerful. Like that's a big deal, kind of. It's a big deal. And I just hope that you really sit with the impact that something that you have created is putting out so much good in the world in conjunction with all of these other gentlemen. That's a big deal.
No, I think it's awesome. Notwithstanding the fact though that they're bringing so much to the table. I mean, I would like to be able to take credit for it, but I can't. It's just there's too many components of people contributing.
Understandable.
And just opening up and sharing, being willing to, let people eat up and up. I'm not even around for that. Like I don't even know what cats are trying to do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Take only what is necessary, but just make sure you take your fair share of, of acceptance of the good. Only what's necessary, only what is acceptable. But take your fair share because you've done something amazing here. And so, take some time to listen back to them in totality, because there's a lot of conviction, a lot of passion, and a lot of really insightful commentary. People really dug deep to bring that to the surface. You know what I'm saying? And so it was just a great experience. Thank you for having me, to allow me to, to lean into these conversations. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Girl, you're always welcome. So appreciate your time. And I'm going to go and just watch the tape for, the rest of the time I'm sitting in this empty house waiting on the lady.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. I'm gonna take my kid to the mall.
Thank you.
All right.
Talk soon.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.